for a Monday edition of Bid Nerds. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new week and a brand new episode of Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars and bids, and bring a trailer. My name is John Polnick. I'm your host, coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada. We're right on the Las Vegas Strip, along with my partner, Michael Deeb, who is not on the Las Vegas Strip. He's coming to you from San Francisco Bay. How are you, Michael Deeb? You ready for some Bid Nerds?
Bay Area. Yeah, I'm great, man. Good morning, JP. Happy Monday.
Look at that. You were throwing down some kind of gang signs there?
Yeah, West Coast, man. West Coast,
oh, look at that.
West Coast,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
West Coast in the house. All right. Well, so, I mean, thank you, Rochelle. Look at this. I got a little thank you for our producer, Rochelle, bringing me a fresh espresso in a cup.
Does your wife have any more of those little... Does your wife have any more of those little candies she makes? Like last time I was at your house, she made this incredible spread, like dessert and everything.
Yeah, she's always making stuff that keeps
does it travel? Does it travel screen to screen through the app? Can you hand me some of your wife's
we have
cookies?
not developed the code for that yet, but we're
our platform blows.
Our platform sucks. It's true. Yeah. So for folks who are just joining us, this is a show where we nerd out on the on cars and bids, and bring a trailer and P-car market, and basically, you get up in the morning. You check all these auction sites, you hang out, you see what the cars are going for, because you're a car nerd. That's what we are too. And you can't help but just pay attention to these auctions, because it's just amazing what happens. There's so much drama. And what Michael and I like to do is take our limited experience and knowledge, which amounts to bubkiss. We know nothing. We're car idiots. And we ramble on about these cars and our personal experiences with them. And we make predictions as to what we think these cars are going to auction for when they actually hit the auction block. Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, mostly wrong. So don't listen to us with our predictions. No. Yeah, our predictions. What Mike's getting at there is that we do keep track of our predictions. We don't just throw it out there and just say, sorry. So the first thing we do in the show, before we get to the cars of the day, and we do have some pretty incredible cars today. If you saw the thumbnail, you probably saw that BMW M1, $500,000 BMW from 1980. We're going to be talking about in just a little bit. But first, we're going to go over predictions from Friday. How did we do last week, and how did Friday work out for us? What happened?
JP, by about 1:30 on Friday afternoon, I was swearing off my friendship and relationship with you.
I got some weird texts from you.
Oh my God. Literally twice in 2 weeks, you got a royal flush where you basically won all 5 of the lots that we reviewed. So
were they both on Fridays too?
Yeah, you finished the week strong the week before, I think.
Yeah, it started out week and then
no. Last week it was on a Wednesday. And you threw in a Yahtzee on the last one on the 944 turbo, I think, or whatever. But anyway, all right, back to Friday really quick. Friday the 29th of January, to wrap up the month of 2021 and hopefully not set the tone for the year. We had a super sub as our star car. It turned out to be the 2003 Volkswagen Eurovan MV Weekender. That was our star car. This is a bring a trailer car. And JP, you and I have been pretty strong on these cars, and you said these are getting really, really hard to find, because during the course of the pandemic, which has been 11 months and counting now, this type of recreational vehicle are in high demand. People cannot take vacations. So families can get together, keep their bubble safe, jump in a vehicle like this, and go anywhere in this lower 48 and have a blast doing it. Go out and see this incredible country of ours. And as such, people who were watching the show lost their mind and ran out and bought this thing. JP, I said 28,500. You kind of laughed and said that you thought for sure this thing would bring 30, but just to keep it close, you said 29,995. The original MSRP of this thing was $28,000, just so you know before I give you this bid, with 85,000 miles, a few scratches, but really nice condition. We both agreed this was a nice one, even though we didn't love the metallic green color. This chicken sold for $40,500. Imagine that, John. A $28,000 2003 Volkswagen with 100,000 miles on it just brought 50% more than original sticker. Actually well over 50%, 55%. So that's incredible. Well sold, and probably it's going to turn out well bought. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's not even a Westie. It's a Weekender. It doesn't have the
Weekender,
plumbing.
yeah.
It doesn't have the
Right.
kitchen. It doesn't have any of that stuff. It's just.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
it
I
drives better.
personally, I kind of like the Weekenders better. I don't really want all that extra stuff. I love
I
having
agree.
the extra space, especially in the Eurovan, because they are limited on space, or at
Yeah.
least they feel like it. The space is
Right.
not as usable as it is, like we discussed on the older ones.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Well,
Anyway,
whatever.
I made
Okay.
quite a fuss over that, but that JP, that's an incredible result. My wife
Yeah.
would prefer a full camping Westphalia, but I like the Weekender. Just give me a tent. We can cook outside,
Yeah.
pee and poo outside, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Then from the top, JP, on cars and bids, we looked at a 2017 Audi S8, S3. This was a car that I thought was really cool. This is a car you thought would be really cool to take to CarMax. I said $29,999, borrowing your bid from the Weekender, and you said 27 because you didn't think it was that great a car. You missed out on a Yahtzee by $100, so there is definitely somebody making fun of us down the road. 26,900. This car was bid to. It did not sell at that price. I really think the book value of this car is definitely comfortably into the 30s, but Doug DeMiro could not find the audience for this consignor on his site. That car stalled out and did not sell at 26,900, almost a Yahtzee for JP. That would have been amazing. Our favorite car, the one that you and I would have fought over, 1989 Porsche 911 Turbo Cab. Significant because the slate gray metallic, not very common. The full burgundy interior, not very common on the turbos. I would be my experience. And the 89 Turbo Cab, they didn't cabs very long, and the 89 only with a 5-speed. So this car ticked just about like 5 unicorn boxes. So I really believed in this thing. I stepped on my Johnson. I said $165,000 for our, I think, like 28,000 mile car. You were a little more bearish. You said 150. I was very surprised that the reserve was met and this car sold at only $130,000. So JP, I hate to bash on Bring a Trailer, but this car was really well bought, and you don't find bargains these days as often as when Bring a Trailer started 7 or 8 years ago with the auction platform, or longer. But this guy, if he would have taken it to Stratus or RM Sotheby's or whatever, I think this guy would have got all the money. But the consignor waited 2 months to get his car up here, and then got suckered into a low reserve. I don't.
Hold on though.
Didn't
This car have a brand on the title? Didn't it have some kind of like discrepancy
yeah, but
on the mileage?
that is crazy to me. I still think, even with that in mind, I still think he would have got more money if he'd gone one of the auction houses and got a bunch of pleated pants drinking Sauvignon Blanc and step on their Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing that this car sold for that price. I wish I had the bank to go ahead and
I'm
pick that up,
really
but,
crapped out. I don't own this car. After
But
that.
the discrepancy was a mileage discrepancy that was
a
challenged,
rollback.
right? It wasn't even
Right.
wasn't even like a real. It was more
and it was put on there from the DMV in Tennessee. Like, what do they know about classic Porsches?
Yeah.
So you look at the cleanliness of the car, you look at the photos from underneath, you look at the odometer, which has a 0 in the 100,000 category, and it says 29,000. There's no reason not to believe that this thing isn't legit, especially since the paint meters.
Yeah.
So why would you challenge that? So that to me shouldn't have held it back, and yet it did. And the consignor allowed for a low reserve and didn't get what this car deserved. So I'm not saying he didn't make money or he's not happy, but I'm saying he might have left $50,000 on the table or more.
Yeah.
So, anyways, all right.
Yep.
And then
All right.
without too much time, we looked at another 1991 MR2 Turbo, and so my pendulum swung way the other way, where I didn't think the last one we saw in Florida was worth $9,000. I assumed this one would bring over 20. You just parked your bet underneath me and bet the under at 20. This car sold for $16,200. Still well bought and probably still well sold. So congratulations to the owner of that. I'm sure they're fun cars. I just don't desire one. It's just not.
They're just not finding. They're just not finding traction. I'm surprised. We've seen two fairly clean ones that just haven't taken off, and I've kind of expected one of them to, but it hasn't happened.
I don't know these, and you know these cars better than I do, but I don't know these cars to be unreliable or have problems. It's Toyota.
Yeah,
I mean, my God. If you can find somebody like Vishnu up here in the Bay Area to give you an ECU flash, I mean, you probably uncork a beast in that thing. You need more tire.
There's so many mods for these little turbos. It's insane.
Oh my God, it would be rad. All right, so and then our last car of the day, the 2002 Mercedes-Benz CLK F 430. Cabriolet. I think this car was down in Florida, JP. This thing was really clean, really clean. No nonsense, no stories. I said 12,000. You said 10. I couldn't believe you bet underneath me.
Not only did I bet 10, but if you go back and watch the episode, I said I'm only betting 10 to narrow the spread because in case there are any bets on this thing. But I didn't think it would find another bid. And what happened? I would have got a effing Yahtzee if I had just listened to my gut, because it didn't get another single bid, right?
Okay, so when you race on the racetrack, JP, when you're following somebody, they say you have to drive the track and not drive the bumper of the car in front of you. And this bid is a perfect analogy of that because your gut told you that this car wasn't going anywhere, but instead of betting the track, you bet the car in front of you, and you were just watching me. But anyway, $8,500 this car was sold. Congratulations to the new owner, man. You just stole that thing. That's
I don't know if he did steal it. That's just what it's worth. I mean, he got a great car for that money because I think these are one of the best values out there right now.
Oh my goodness.
They are just not finding traction. The idea that this car is worth half as much as that MR2, and I like old MR2s, but this is 5 times the car for half the price. Man. And it's just, oh my God, these are so good in so many ways. Not a sports car like the MR2, but you're getting so much car for under 10. Are you kidding me?
Jeff Harley and Bid Nerd associate. He's the third nerd by birthright. He had a CLK 350, I think. So he had the 6-cylinder one. Okay. And he leased it for 3 years, and he loved that thing, man. He drove the snot out of the car. And it wasn't worth anything when it was done, too. At the end of the lease, he was happy to give it back because otherwise he would have been buried in that car. And his lease was like a special. He got like an employee lease with like no interest or whatever. And that car was, he still would have been buried in it. He's just, here you go, take it back. I'm done. We're good. It was just a rental. But anyways, JP, full washout. You got 5. Although I started the week strong, man, you came on at the end. So I finished the week with 10. You finished the week with 15 plus a Yahtzee, which would have scored you twice. So that was just a total crushing, another ass whooping. Well done, man. Congratulations.
Thanks, bro. Still, don't listen to us. Definitely don't listen to me, even though I'm right more often than him. We still don't know what we're talking about.
All over the board. All over the board.
Predictions.
I tell you what, and our real, I know we thumbed, I think, a Porsche for the star car, but our real star car is this BMW that we're going to start with, this M1. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, JP, the value of this car is all over the board. Wait till you hear what I have to say about this. You're going to crack up.
All right. Well, there it is, guys. So we're going to move on to the cars of the day. And so if you're just joining us, this is Cars. What the heck is the name of our show? This is Bid Nerds, where we nerd out about the most interesting cars and cars and bids, bring a trailer, and sometimes Speed Car Market and other auction sites occasionally. This week is going to be a pretty crazy week. There's some really interesting cars coming up this week, and even today. I mean, we're starting off the week with a car that's basically worth around $500,000 for a BMW from 1980. Yep. What the heck is that all about? Let's take a look at this thing.
All right, JP, pull it up. What we're looking at here is a really rare car. So this is a 1980 BMW M1 AHG with just 4,000 miles. Look how freaking gorgeous that car is. Right. So a little bit of history now. What you have to remember is that the idea for this car was hatched probably in the mid to late 70s. So in like 1977, 1978, BMW was doing very good in sports car racing, but they wanted to take it a step further. And as such, they contacted Lamborghini to do a collaboration. They wanted to make a mid-engine sports car, supercar, and they knew that they didn't know enough about it and that they should contact Lamborghini, because mid-engine cars, the first real mid-engine car to come out of Lamborghini was the Miura in the late 60s. So, just a decade later, the idea of a mid-engine supercar was still beyond the reach of what was at the time a very boutique BMW. And so they contacted an Italian very boutique Lamborghini. So the idea was that Lamborghini would build this car for BMW and use a bunch of craftsmen from Modena, that's where Ferrari hails from, to do the fiberglass and to manufacture the chassis and all the components. Basically, BMW was just going to supply one of their motors, and Lamborghini would handle all the rest. So Lamborghini enlisted Dallara to do the chassis and the suspension to create the platform for this car. And then they contacted our buddy, Giorgetto Giugara. And I always butcher his last name, so forgive me for all those people that know him better than I do.
Giorgetto is going to be so upset with you.
Yeah. Giugiaro. Anyways, if I'm saying that correctly, JP, this guy, you should have a poster of this guy or an 8x10 glossy of him in your office, because this is the godfather of the DeLorean and the Alfa Romeo GTV and the Volkswagen Golf and the Volkswagen Scirocco and the Volkswagen Jetta. I mean, this guy penned every cool car that you and I grew up geeking out over. Tons of Maseratis, tons of Volkswagens, tons of Alfa Romeos. And so he is also the guy that designed the BMW M1s, which I think is a very good looking car. So the trouble happens this is the breakdown. Lamborghini's running out of money. And so while they design this thing, they go to build the first basic, like, you know, they're kind of considered prototypes. Lamborghini produced a total of 7 of these cars, and that's it. And Lamborghini was in financial trouble, and the product was at the moment sort of stillborn. So BMW had to kind of go down and rescue this thing and do it themselves. But they still used all the same people that Lamborghini lined up. So Lamborghini's still credited with kind of helping to birth this car, but BMW ultimately had to handle all the production themselves because Lamborghini was basically in receivership. And then, you know, a handful of years later, they get picked up by Audi. So the very first 7 cars were actually assembled by Lamborghini. All the rest were done by BMW using all of the Italian builders and artisans and engineers and houses. There's a list of 6 of them that go on. This car uses a 3.5 liter 6-cylinder inline. It's a limited slip differential, 5-speed synchromesh transmission, individual throttle bodies per cylinder. The car weighed about 2,800 pounds because, again, it was made in fiber, and it ate about 277 horsepower, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the car was pretty lightweight back in period. And think about this weighed 150 pounds more than like an F40 that came out, you know, another 15 years later. What's interesting is a BMW dealership in somewhere in Germany. This is very Ford, Mustang, Chevy, Camaro. This one dealer made 7 or 8 of these cars, and the BMW was called AHG, and they created what they called their study package. And so they would take a BMW M1 and they would make this car, which had the pro car, sort of like the IROC series, front air dam, rockers, the wide body in the front, the wide body in the rear, and a rear wing. And they modified the motor to make 350 horsepower, and they gave it these beautiful, they all had these 16-inch multi-piece BMW BMS deep dish wheels. So there are only a handful of these cars ever made in the world, and there's not a lot written about them. I couldn't find very much about AHG, but Bruce Canepa had one several years ago that he had for sale in a different livery than this one. And he had that car over a year before he could find a buyer for it. And I think he was asking just like $400,000 or $500,000 for the car. About 2 years ago, another one in a different livery was for sale in Europe, and they were asking, it had less miles than this one, I think, but they were asking $930,000. So the 7 or 8 of these AHG studies that were made by this one BMW dealership in period in 1980 were all painted in different famous BMW liveries. And of course, this one, our car here today out of Costa Mesa, California, showing just 4,200 miles, is an authentic AHG with BMW's traditional tricolor motorsport livery. It looks like a pro car for the street, and it is faster than a typical M1 and way rarer. So the price of the car is at, with about an hour and 15 minutes to go, at $475,000 is what you would expect to pay for a really nice low mile M1. But being an AHG and having ridiculously low miles, I think that this car is going to go for stupid money at the close of auction, because our car has had already 16 bids. So the word is out. And they did a longer than 7-day auction, JP, which caught us out because we thought this car was going to close on Friday, and it's closing today. This was one of those like 14-day auctions. So anyways, long-winded, but really special car. I would love to drive one. I think 350 horsepower makes this thing move. What's your take? What do you think?
Whew, I mean, well, that was a deep dive on the history and really good information. Michael Deep does his homework, folks, unlike JP. Look, I remember when you couldn't give these away for 80 grand. So,
That's right.
I'm kind of like, I'm just shocked at seeing a number, that's already $500,000 and with Sky in front of it. And I get that it's got, that this is a particularly special one. So Sky is the limit on this car. I think it is absolutely beautiful. I think it's one of the best looking cars of all time. It's certainly in the top 10. I love that, the designer also made a Scirocco. I mean, there you go. That alone makes me want to give this guy $500,000 for this car. But I think if I had $500,000, I don't think I get the car. I don't think you get it. And I think the other thing that's a little bit of a bummer, given how much money this car is going to go for and how few miles it has, it's unlikely that this car is going to be driven. I feel like whoever gets this, it's just going to get put away. So there is melancholy that goes along with this beauty, and I don't know how to express that feeling. I'm overtaken with joy when I see this car. That video is really great. I always appreciate it when people actually put the work into advertising their cars and making them look good. I mean, now this is a $500,000 car, so they went for it, and this is certainly an ad for a car that's worth the money. They got the good photos. Now these are just the photos in the parking lot, but there's obviously, we showed you studio photos and that really well done video and all that sort of stuff. A video that I would have done better, but whatever. They did a good job. I just want to get in this car and drive it. And unfortunately, I feel like they're going to, probably the couple of miles that they put on it making that video for this ad, it's probably the most amount of miles that this thing's going to see until the next time.
It's absolutely right. Yeah. I think that Emerging Collectibles, that's the seller. I think this is our buddy Andrew Pappas. You may remember, JP, you and I did a couple weeks ago, we looked at a 2007 Saleen S7 LM that was a really cool car. And you may, if you were really paying attention, you may recognize the parking lot that the M1 is filmed in. That's the same lot that they used to film their Saleen S7. And that car brought a record amount. That car sold for $1.2 million, had a really great late flurry, and brought a ton of money. So I think our M1 is in for a similarly exciting close. I think that the buyer for this car is out there and watching, and that this car could bring silly money. So
what is silly money? Where is this going to land?
So I want to try to put a limit on this car. I'm not sure that it's going to bring $900,000 or $1 million. Like I said, Canup was able to sell his, but that was before he could have advertised on Bring a Trailer. And in those days, he didn't bring his cars to auction, so he was just trying to sell them to his own client base, which I think kind of limited the appeal of the car he had. Also, the car he had was like 3 different shades. It was black, dark gray, medium gray, and silver. And it was a very weird paint job. So the paint job was very polarizing. If you're a fan of BMW, this car has got to be this car's got to make you giddy, So I think this is the right color too. I think that's really going to help this car. So do I think it's going to bring 900,000? No. But last night I wrote 600 grand, and then I really thought about it, and I think this car is going to go stupid. So JP, I'm going to really stick my neck out for this car because I wish I could own it, and I would drive it. If I could afford it, I would just I would drive the shit out of this thing. But I'm going to say $750,000. I'm going to go a full whopping, $250,000 over the current bid and say $750,000. And of course it sells at that price. If it were to stall out around $500,000, I don't think it would hit its reserve because the car is worth more than that. A regular M1 you could get for that. These are really special. So what do you think, man?
I don't think that's an absurd take on where this car could land, because you're not getting another one of these. This is, if you want one, here you go. This is it. This is your shit. This is your shot. This is the only one you're going to be able to get one of these. I'm going to go 100 grand under you. And again, this is pure speculation because that's
a good bid.
And I would like to see it go for more. But this type of special car really depends on who's sitting at home right now ready to blow their PayPal account because they've been just making all that Bitcoin, or maybe someone who has the GameStop stock is going, Here it is. So this car goes from one hedge fund manager to some regular Joe in a trailer park who just made a bunch of money. I hope that's the person who gets it, because that's the person that's going to drive it. They're going to drive to their gig at Starbucks or wherever they work daily and see this as a daily driver. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, I love this car. I hope it brings a bunch of money. But I think 650 is that's where I'm going to park my bet. And my bet is more of a guess than anything.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty good take. 650 might hit the reserve at that price, but who knows? We'll see. We'll see shortly. This is
so you think that might not even hit a reserve at 650? You don't even think that
well, no, at where it's at now, which would be enough money to you can find an M1 for $475,000. But I think the reserve on our car is higher than where we're at right now. But 650 could meet the reserve. 750 surely will. And there you go.
If you bought one of the, let's call it regular M1s, as if there's such a thing, in that $500,000 range, how hard would it be to give it the poop to make it a 350 horsepower one like this one?
I think they're just uncorking it. I don't know. That's the thing, man. I can't find a lot about the AHGs as far as like, are they opening up are they splitting the cases, or are they getting the extra horsepower with bolt-ons? I mean, these cars already had individual throttle bodies. So that's
a lot of extra horsepower for that engine without putting forced induction, and I don't see a turbo in this thing. So
no, there's no turbo. That's just so they must have reworked the cylinder head, maybe higher compression pistons, maybe what do you call it? Port and polish and a hotter cam, and then away you go.
Probably $50,000. You could probably get that extra power, and then get a less expensive one that you don't feel bad about driving. That's the one I want.
The real pro cars that were race cars, like as a one make series, were not much more powerful than this, but they definitely were stiffer racetrack racing cars. All the Formula One drivers raced these cars in a one make series, and two world champions won the consecutive years that the pro car existed, which was really neat. Kind of like an IROC series.
All right, guys, there will be a quiz at the end of this nerd show. That was that was about as nerd out as you get, but that's just the kind of thing we do right here. On Bid Nerds, we got a nerd, certifiable. We got okay, so there's, I want to clarify, we've never really talked about, there's two types of nerds. There's nerds that get good grades. That's that guy.
Not me. No.
And then there's the dork nerds that don't get good grades. They're just dorky. That's
JP, I had 9 years of high school English. Let that set in, okay?
Man, I barely speak Spanish. Okay, let's move on to the next car. That was pretty crazy. I can't wait to see where that one lands. Let's see what we got next.
Yeah, so what is awesome today, JP, is we're all over the place. So we're going from Bring a Trailer over to P-Car, and out of Oakville, Missouri, we're going to look at a 2007 BMW 550i sedan with the factory sports package, including the 6-speed manual. This car has just 19,000 miles and is 14 years old. And this little beauty, and I'm telling you, man, I've had two 5 Series platforms from this era. This car's just sitting at like $14,000 on 7 bids. I mean, what a great car for the money. V8 rear-wheel drive, 4-door sedan that drives like a real sports sedan, and a manual, just a wonderful manual and a V8. I mean, what more could you possibly ask for what's probably going to amount to less than $20,000? I believe in this car. My first real BMW that I owned was this era, an E91, and it was a 545i with a 5-speed automatic that Jeff Harley sold me out of a Porsche dealership as a used car. I paid like $18,000 for the car and drove it for 2 years and loved it, and then traded it back into him because they got an M5 for me with the SMG. Now I hated that gearbox, but the V10 in this was amazing. But it was an angry car. It wasn't the car didn't like city driving, and I lived in the city. That car was a country car with that terrible single clutch gearbox. This is like the best of both worlds. You get a V8 and you get a manual and you get a few extra horsepower. JP, this is a no-nonsense car with really low miles in your colorway. You could do a lot worse than this car right here. So somebody is going to luck out today and take this car home off of P-Car Market. So there you go, man. What do you think of that?
I think it's weird that it's on P-Car Market, but what a great car. Yeah, I mean, really, what can you say about this? This is just kind of like a perfect sedan. How many miles did you say it has on it?
19,000.
Jeez Louise.
Brand new. Barely
like
broken in.
Brand new car. And is there a single BMW at a BMW dealership that's brand new that you would rather have than this?
No way.
There isn't one on the show. BMW does not make a car that I would rather have over this. That's including whatever M4 or 3, whatever the hell they call them now, M6s, MMM, whatever. There's nothing BMW makes currently that I would rather have than this car. And now, granted, there's a bunch of cars. If somebody said, here, you want a brand new M4? Of course, I'm taking the brand new M4 because it's worth a bunch of money, but I would just immediately put it on, bring a trailer somewhere, or take it to CarMax and just take a check and then go buy something like this. This is an enthusiast car. BMW no longer makes enthusiast cars. They make video game machines. They really are just, it's their PlayStation 7s. And I'm over it. Screw BMW.
This car with a sport package, JP, has active roll stabilization. That was part of their suspension. I mean, you get a sport package from an Audi, and it's just a body kit. Like this BMW takes this to heart. It also does away with like the chrome window trim, and they do this they call shadow line trim. So like all your trim around the windows and stuff is all like an anthracite gray, and it kind of just gives this car like a little optics, and it's just really sporty. I'm telling you, man, JP, that's probably the best value out there. Also, a little shout out to P-Car. We pooped all over P-Car because when they tried to peddle just Porsches, a lot of times the cars most of the deals were in the tank post-auction. But what they have done, I don't know who the change, but certainly in the last year, they've opened it up to other brands and interesting cars, and they're actually starting to move some metal. And so it's interesting that today we have 2 cars from P-Car Market. So
they need to change their branding. P-Car Market, fine, keep the name, but say P-Car means like people's car or something like that instead of Porsches, because this is it is interesting that how they're going this direction.
And if you're going to call it people's cars, then get some Volkswagens up there. God dang it.
Hell yeah, some air-cooled stuff, man. Get some dirt bags on this website. All right, so it's sitting. I mean, where's this going to land, man? I don't. It's 15 grand.
So it's on 9 bids at 15 grand, JP. I think this car. I mean, I put $19,000 last night. P-Car, there's still deals to be made. I want to believe this car's worth over $20,000, but I'm not going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to say 19 grand and it sells. Where are you coming in?
I'm going to say 17. 19,000 miles is amazing. That's what's going to possibly, if this car gets, 15 grand is all the money for a 2007 550, even with a 6-speed, is worth $10,000. So it's already over what it's worth. But that's with normal miles. So the 19,000 miles, is it possible that it, gets double the amount of money that what one of these would normally book for? And I'm guessing on what those book value is, but I can't imagine it's much more than 11 grand. So with this mileage, but it is definitely an enthusiast that's going to want it.
The mileage, the sport package, and the stick together. Because some people get a stick and don't get the sport package.
Color.
That's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
But the color, that was what I was going to say. This is Polnick approved triple black, right? This is
correct.
That's
color.
the right one. That is the correct color. Yeah, for sure. Okay.
All right.
Staying with the BMW theme, let's jump over
a lot
to,
of BMWs today. Jeez.
Well, we were honoring this M1 because again, when they made that car in, when they started to design it in 78, 79, BMW was a boutique brand, but then BMW was on the map, and BMW is such a mainstay today. We think of them as a huge company, but they weren't back then. And so to honor that, we selected a handful of BMWs to throw up and consider. Doug DeMiro is offering this no reserve 2007 328i Wagon. Now, JP, I don't know who this seller is. Let me see if I can read his name real quick. The seller is Twiggins, okay? And so what's interesting is this guy took what Doug DeMiro says is a one of only 429 rear-wheel drive E91 wagons with a 6-speed manual. So it's rear drive, wagon, manual, one of 429. This car's triple black, but the owner of this car, maybe it wasn't the seller, but somebody who owned this car went and swapped out the steering wheel for a BMW Sport steering wheel, the seats for BMW Sport seats, the full BMW Sport suspension, and then something to do with the shifter knob also is part of the BMW Sport package. So the car didn't have the Sport package, but he retrofitted everything to make this a wagon with the Sport package. The only thing it's missing then would have been the front, that lower front valance, which would give it away. What he did do also that I want to shout out, because this is the kind of stuff I love. JP, to the uninitiated, they would just look at it and think that it came with those wheels, and it did not. Those are the wheels off an M3, and they're staggered width, which BMW never would have done on a wagon. They just look so good on that car. I love touches like this. It's something you would do. It's something I would do. It's subtle. Only the enthusiast would know it. Know that those staggered width 18-inch monster like forged wheels did not come on this lowly little 3-liter wagon. I think that is just the finishing touch for me. I love this car. The only thing I would undo is he blacked out the 2-kidney grill. I would leave that in like.
Oh, I love that part. I was going to mention.
I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like that. I knew you would, so that's why I wanted to.
That's what I wanted to do. That 550 that we were just talking about.
I wanted to poop on that right away. I set the record straight. I would actually undo it. That's how much I don't like it.
Wow.
But all the rest of this car does it for me. This is cool. Out of San Antonio, Texas, JP, with just 70,000 miles, you and I have been feeling BMW wagons. Here's another cool one. When I saw it was black in private party, I was like, JP's going to love this thing. So I popped it up there. It's at $13,000 on 14 bids. That's pretty good action. Take it away, JP.
Yeah, buddy. I mean, that brushed aluminum interior is the correct interior for this era of BMW. Most of them came with that stupid wood, and that wood, kind of like you and I have talked about in the past, how like a cracked dashboard can be the difference between buying a car and not buying a car. That wood trim, even though it's black on black, is something that would keep me from buying a car. This car right here with the aluminum trim, hell yeah, that is absolutely different. I love it. Still has a little flashlight in there. I just said on the previous car that I would take that car over any car that BMW sells on the lot right now, and certainly this car also qualifies, and this car I would take hands down over the 550 as well. And I think it's probably going to be worth more, even though it has literally 3 times the miles. The wagon, the rear wheel drive, the manual, the reliability, touches, all the things about this car, the pano roof. This is just, I mean, screw any there's no crossover. I mean, sorry, Porsche, Macan, you can keep it. Whatever Jaguar makes, or anybody that makes these, whiz bang crossovers that everyone's loving right now. This is what you should get. Get a freaking wagon with a manual. This is a true enthusiast car. I love seeing this on Cars and Bids, because this is what Cars and Bids is all about. This is a true enthusiast car. And we've seen the actual sport ones go for some pretty big money. Where do you think this one's going to land?
So, all right. So, JP, I have to say, the more we do the show, the more I really enjoy. Like, if I see a car on Doug DeMuro's site, I feel like everything's disclosed. So known flaws is a category on Cars and Bids, and all of it is cosmetic, but down at the bottom, it's not hidden. It's put out there. There is an oil leak believed to be from the Valvetronic adjuster gasket on the exhaust side of the engine. So this car needs a little bit of work. So that, and I love that that's on there. It's not to poo-poo on the car. Yeah. It's to be full disclosure. And I really don't like Bring a Trailer's format. I like Cars and Bids better. It's and so, which is crazy. So anyway, shout out. Thanks, Doug, for keeping us informed. So with that in mind, JP, I still think this car has some blue sky above it. It's funny. I did put a higher bid for this car as well. So I wrote $21,000. It's at 15. It's on a better platform than the other one was on PCAR, right? So this is a platform I think that will garner the money. So I think that alone, despite the oil leak, there's too many special pieces on this car, and wagons are bringing good money. So. Plus, we just reviewed it, so that's worth $2,000.
Well, clearly, we're going to bring the value up, and I'm going to go ahead and do a rare over. I'm going to say 23.
Wow!
I think we've seen some of these go for some big money, and which has been a shock. And this is the better color combination, rear wheel drive. A lot of times when we see these wagons, even with a manual, they wind up being an all wheel drive.
All-wheel drive, right?
So a rear wheel drive one is just such a unicorn. And look at this guy with his poor. Steering wheel discipline, but whatever. He's just driving through the neighborhood. Anyways, but he's rolling through the gears, and he's just going to get a cup of coffee, and that's still fun, right? I mean, come on. I want that. So that's my bid, 23. Maybe you can see more. Maybe you can see more. All right. That's a lot of BMW for bid nerds. We should be BMW nerds. We should change the name of the show.
It's Bavarian Mondays. It's Bavarian for Mondays.
Sure. Why not? We'll go with that. Yeah.
But wait, there's more. So back to Bring a Trailer, JP. But back to Bring a Trailer, and again, just another. I don't want to say unicorn because there's definitely plenty out there, but this one was really clean, JP. And I love Estoril blue metallic. So here we find a 1997 BMW M3 Coupe manual. This is the E36 platform. This is BMW royalty. Out of Orange Park, Florida, 77,000 miles, limited slip differential. The aforementioned Estoril blue. Estoril is, of course, JP, a Formula One circuit in Portugal, over the gray leather interior, the sort of the dove gray. And JP, correct me if I'm wrong, the ad says that those are Vader seats, which I seem to keep getting wrong time and time again. I love this because it has the dark gray carpet and dash, black steering wheel, and then the light gray seats, the sort of like a sand dollar color. No nonsense, no bodywork, no accidents, no bad Carfax, no nothing. This is just a no nonsense M3 Coupe. Get yours while you can. This is the later version with the 3.2, 240 horsepower, 236 pound-foot of torque. This car was only, it's hard to imagine, JP. In 1997, this car was only $42,000 brand new.
That was a lot of money in 1997. It
was, yeah. For a 27-year-old Michael, this car was out of reach. Don't get me wrong. And it wasn't that I couldn't afford the payment. I couldn't afford the insurance. Yeah. I think I may have shared this story with you. I went to go look at a yellow 96 at the BMW dealer, and they had a leftover 95 lightweight sitting on the showroom floor with a $38,000 MSRP, and they were willing to discount it heavily. I think they were offering it to me for like $32,000 or $33,000, and the motorsport box was in the trunk with the the wing and the front air dam and the X brace and the oil pan. All that stuff was in the trunk, and I was going to buy it, and I went, and the guy goes, "Did you call your insurance yet?" And I said, "No, why?" And he goes, "You should call." He says, "Where do you live?" I said, "San Francisco." He goes, "Call your insurance." So the payment was like
wow, a car salesman with a heart of gold. That's like a hooker, man.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell?
$400 or $500 for the payment, and it was like $600 for me with my bad driving record to try and get that car insured. It was a deal breaker. I was like, no way. Yeah. If I had $1,200, I'd buy a house. Right. So that was the end of it. So I've wanted one ever since because I was at the dealer and I was ready to buy, and it was out of my reach. So when I see one like this, I would tint those rear windows, and I would enjoy the hell out of that car. I'd probably even take it to the track every once in a while because these cars are magic. John, did you ever own one of these? I forget.
I have. That's odd. Actually, that's a very good question. I have never owned an E36 M3, and I've spent a lot of time around these cars. I have owned E36s, and like I've said with the previous BMWs, there's no BMW that they sell right now currently that I would rather have than this one. However, I would rather have that E90 wagon that we just talked about over this car. Now, one thing, I mean, these cars, the amazing thing about these cars, it's not really amazing. The thing that most people know if you're an enthusiast is that these were plentiful. There sure were a ton of them. Enthusiasts got a hold of them. And they beat the living daylights out of them because they were cheap for 15, 20 years. So to find a clean one like this with low miles, unmolested, is very, very rare, and especially in this color. The interior color, yes, those are Vader's, Michael Deeb, you are correct, but they are the dove gray ones, which is a deal killer for me personally. Most people would disagree. A lot of people really like that interior, and at least it has enough black on the dash that it kind of offsets it a little bit. It's not like a sea of gray, but... to the American male jackass that wants to buy this car, I am telling you that the ink from your $200 blue jeans will stain those seats. You will ruin those seats with your designer jeans. I promise you. So this one looks like it's in really nice condition. There were a lot of Ed Hardy prints put on the base of these during the 90s and early aughts. Maritai Francois Gerbeau jeans will ruin these things. All right, well, 17.5. I mean, this is with an hour to go. I mean, BMW E36 M3s are climbing up. This is happening. I'm sticking my neck out for these BMWs. I'm gonna say $25,000. Whoa, 25. Yeah, because it's the right miles. I think it is the right color, even though for you the gray seats are the killer. I think that there's enough people out there. They're not polarizing enough that I think there's still an audience for this. This is the right one. It's no accidents.
good color, coupe, stick, limited slip diff. Well, I mean, what else do you want? That's it. I think this one could bring 25. It might not, but it could.
I don't disagree with that take. I'm going to be way more conservative because it's a Monday and there's only 3 bids on this car right now.
Right.
I don't know if this is going to be, like Porsches, we always see late rushes. This one, that's a long way to go.
It's on
with
B18.
Hardly anyone. It is on the right platform. It is the right car. Excuse me. So I'm going to say, sorry about that. I had a little hiccup. Yeah. I'm going to say 21. I think maybe it could very well break the 20 mark, and that would be a big deal for an E36 M3.
It would. Yeah.
But 25 is just, I think that's just a little too much faith in one of these. I think they're heading there. I think that's going to happen soon, but not yet.
All right.
Okay.
So JP, let's jump back over to P-Car.
All right.
And we are going to look at, we have covered a couple of doozies. This might be the Frankenstein award of the month, man. A 1980 Porsche 911 SC.
Look at this thing.
And that car is the car I'm talking about. Nobody's going to believe me because someone and I got to read the ad to do this for us. Somebody at Bob Anziano's Bad Boy Cars of Orange County, California, took this car, and let me go back and read this, and did a slant nose, wide body, Speedster, Cabriolet conversion to his 1980 911 SC. And this is interesting, JP, because there is no SC convertible, right? There's only SC coupes and Targas. Is that a fair statement?
There is an 83 SC.
Okay, so
the last year the SC did have a cab. So what year?
Okay,
what year is this car? Not an 80. No, that's started as a Targa.
This car got decapitated before it was made into this sex symbol. Everything about this car rubs me the wrong way. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I am going to do my first official Mark Daoud nerd turd and slap it on this car out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. JP, I know you love this thing, but everything about it bothers me. That one thing I will say, the thing I love about the factory M505 slant nose, the aspect that I love are there's the slats behind the headlights that allow the wheel wells to dissipate both heat and air from the wheel well itself. And then the rockers, those factory M505 cars have these huge, wide, boxed rocker panels that you have to climb over to get into the car. It creates a 7-inch, thing between the seat and the street. And this car lacks this. So everything about this car, to my eye, really bothers me, including this hideous paint job and those like super 80s 5-star wheels. The only thing I will commend Bob for not doing is he didn't slap a Porsche crest on the front of this car, because there's hardly any Porsche left on this thing. Right. And the fact that he did it to an SC that barely makes enough horsepower to carry all this bodywork up a hill. Yeah. I mean, this would be impossible to drive in San Francisco. It does have the Speedster window. It does have incredible bodywork. At least like the fit and finish to the panels. Bob at least does good work, even if he doesn't have any taste. JP, you can have this car. I will say, and my last confession, I'll let you talk. It was at $20,000 on 2 bids last night when I made my notes. So I put 26 grand for my bid, and now it's on like 5 bids and it's at $30,000. So I have no idea what to say about this car. It's at $30,250 on 4 bids. So John, take it away. I'm sure you love this thing.
I want to love this thing. There's so many issues with it, and I'm with you on a lot of them. I will say that you mentioned the slant nose. The original slant noses, the first ones that Porsche made, did not have slats on the top of the fenders. The actual the executive ones did not have that. So that is definitely some nerd stuff there. In fact, and like the very first ones that Kramer made didn't even have headlights. They just had a big hole in the front they put the headlights down here.
Those are sick.
Yeah, but this one. So I think this
JP,
one.
JP, let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
Right behind you right now is a poster from the Fascination video for the Ice Machine. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did the Ice Machine have the headlights you just mentioned?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
so people should go to Defascination on YouTube and they can see the headlights that John is talking about.
Yes, they're nebulous as to whether or not they were legal. Kai likes to say. I do love the box rockers with the cheese graters, but I prefer to not have them. This car to me has some potential. Yes, you're right. The color is just not going to happen. This is so 90s. I mean, this car is just screaming 90s at you. So at a Radwood situation, this is absolutely the sensibilities of somebody in 1995 who just took a loan against their options against some .com, like dogfood.com or something like that, and 2 years later the bank called them on those options and now they repoed this sucker. First thing you do is pull the rear wing off, and then you either repaint it or you vinyl wrap it black or silver or some basic color, and you swap out the wheels, and now all of a sudden you have something that's kind of interesting. It's going to be difficult to deal with the gauges. You're going to have to get something that's not yellow, but the Speedster parts on this. If you go to eBay right now and try to find, Speedster windshield and clamshell and all that stuff, that's 40, 50 grand just for the parts alone. Forget the actual conversion. I don't know if this car, if they strengthened the body when they removed the Targa loop, one would hope that they did if they knew what the hell they were doing. Did it say anything about that in the ad?
I don't think so, but even if they didn't, you could go to Elephant Racing, and Elephant Racing will sell you a brace for everything. You could take the slack out of this car. JP, a set of wheels, I would either dye or redo the piping on the seats. I would put a prototype on there, and then I would change the gauges. I would just go, I don't care what the odometer says because it doesn't matter. I would just change the gauges from a pick and pull. And then I would leave the yellow. I would take the wing off. I would take the review light that's on the brake light from the 80s, which is probably illegal, but I would remove it anyways. And then you'd have yourself a car. Yellow.
Even black, with black Fuchs, just regular old black turbo Fuchs would look fantastic on this thing.
That would actually cause more confusion because then people would really think it came from Stuttgart,
Yeah, right. No, I think this. It's clean. The work is good. This is not.
The work is
does
good.
not look like how often do you see these and the hood doesn't match? Look at those lines on the front, man. That shit's lining up.
Bob does good work. He just the customer or if he did it himself doesn't have any.
It's got to be the era. This thing had to have been done in the mid-aughts when this was where it was at. This is the RWB of 1997. This was like, oh, look at me, I'm flashy, and and there it is. Think about that, folks who are getting an RWB done. What's your car gonna? How are people gonna look at an RWB in 2035? They're gonna be like, look at this idiot. They had no taste back then. Boot full of Ed Hardy jeans and Affliction t-shirts. So, I was excited about this car last night when it was sitting at 20. Now that it's 30, I would trade my 996 GT3 clone for this, though.
Wow, I bet you would. And I bet you'd make it cool, too. All right, JP. So this car, again, is out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It has apparently 66,000 miles on the probably chassis and drivetrain. It's got 2.5 hours to go. It's sitting on 4 bids at $30,250. I still don't think this is going to get a lot of action. It's just so polarized. So I don't know that there's a lot of life left in this thing. I'm going to say, and this is real conservative, I guess. I'm just going to lay it up and say $35,000 brings it home.
Yeah, that was the number I was going to say.
All right.
Do I go over or under on that? And I'm going to go under and say 34 because, you start getting into that. Anything more than that, you start getting the legit cars. The Speedster stuff is worth something. And I've seen some Speedster reps, 911 Speedster reps, not 356 Speedster replicas, but I've seen some 911 Speedster replicas bring some fairly big money. If I missed an opportunity to buy one a few months ago because I got mad at the guy and lost my temper. And I was so mad. I was so mad at this asshole that I totally blew it because I probably could have gotten a deal, but I was just like red with anger. I was so ticked at this dude.
The red mist.
Yeah, so sometimes it might, your judgment can be clouded by the anger, but yeah. So there it is, guys. That's been a Monday edition of the Bid Nerds. This is
nice somber note to sign off on.
Bunch of BMWs and a weirdo 911. That's just the kind of nerd out we do right here at Bring a Trailer.
Yeah.
So, or Bring a Trailer, Bid Nerds.
Bid Nerds, yes.
If you haven't subscribed or liked or hit the notification button, please do so now. Let everybody know that this channel exists. We are a new channel, and we're having a great time hanging out with you guys every morning during about the 9 o'clock hour, Monday through Friday. Got to give a shout out to all the people who've been really helping out. Your lovely wife, Esther, my wonderful wife, Rochelle,
absolutely. Thank you, Rochelle.
Patootie, Lee Patet, who helps me in the mornings with the cutouts so I can do the layouts in about 3 seconds. Antonio Salvatore. We've got this show looks like we just throw it together, but we do actually have a whole team of people doing great work for us. So we really appreciate you guys.
Antonio's like our Merlin. He's the magician in the background. So thank you, Antonio.
Yeah. He doesn't watch the show. He's not going to hear that.
No, of course not. His time is important.
And to the folks who are watching regularly, the David Sullivans and the old schools, and there's just some great people that are commenting regular and listening to us every day, and we really appreciate you guys hanging out.
Cousin Mark, Jeff Harley, Jeff Westfall from time to time. Yep.
Matthew Whitesell, all those guys.
For sure. Matt.
The list goes on and on.
Ben, Professor, I see you, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. So there it is. We do this every Monday through Friday during the 9 o'clock hour. Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars and bids. Bring a trailer and more. We will see you guys tomorrow morning, and we have some other videos coming for you this week too. So
adios.
Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.